Welcome to Bros to 2024. And yeah, you see that back there? That's where 2023 is burning right now, even though that was a pretty decent year. But today we're entering into the new year with the Nerf Zombie Strike Return, or Zombie. How ironic that it was a hammer primed blaster that started the original Zombie Strike line, and now we're to this. Is this better or worse than the hammer shot? Only time will tell, but let's get into it. Included with the driller is the blaster itself, 16 darts, and a scope. Now, this new series from Nerf is a zombie series, so it's like the Zombie Strike Series 2.0, but it's instead just being called Zombie. I have no idea why, but who knows what Hasbro is going to bring us this year. But this is the Driller, their very first blaster in the line. They have another one, but I'm not going to look at that, but let's give this thing an external overview. Starting up at the front, there's no Instrike barrel lug, unfortunately, and this is not a removable attachment. You are stuck with this. I suspect if you open up the blaster, you can take it out, or of course you could take a hacksaw or a knee to it. But that's not bad. Back behind, we do have the cylinder. This is a 5-round rotating cylinder, and it can just be floated simply like that. And the included darts that come with this are just green Elite darts again. It's literally just like the original Zombie Strike darts. They're even the exact same shade of green. But this is compatible with other Elite darts, waffle head darts, so not really much of a surprise there. Up above, we do have a scope, but affixed to that, we do have a tactical rail, and this is the included attachment. It's a pretty decent attachment. It has a little plastic fiber optics in there. It's not going to help you aim at all. And one complaint I have with this is a pretty loose attachment. It's very difficult to get on, but once it gets on, it stays. And down below, we do have another tactical rail over here. Back to the hammer. This is how you prime the blaster to prime. You do that, and as you see, it has a retracting hammer, again, much like the Outlaw, so that takes a lot to get used to. But it's overall a pretty smooth prime, but it's a little bit difficult to get to with one hand, so you might have to use two hands for that. And now down to the trigger. The trigger pull is very nice, and this blaster technically does have slam fire, but it's called fam firing. But the release is pretty smooth, and it's a pretty okay trigger. But now getting down to the grip. The grip is not the most comfortable. One, it's pretty cramped because of what's down here, but it's also just the fact that it's a pretty small grip, so it's not going to be the most comfortable on the hands. And especially with the trigger, because when I pull the trigger, my middle finger keeps getting smacked. So that's not really the most comfortable, so I have to constantly readjust my grip so that I could comfortably fire this, but then I have to readjust it to strike the hammer, so that's not really fun. And one cool feature that this does have a trigger. It doesn't have a trigger lock, so you can deprime the blaster if you don't want to fire that, which is always fun to have. And the cylinder actually rotates on the prime, so that's also pretty comfy. And now down here we have dart storage. So this holds 4 darts, four dart storage to a 5-shot blaster. I don't know why. And the retention is actually pretty solid. They squeeze in there pretty tight, and I've shaken this around. You're not going to get them to fall out. But what's also good is the darts actually don't get damaged at all. And Nerf has kind of botched this with very loose holds, but also very tight holds where they damage the dart. But it's overall not bad. But that is the external overview of the Driller. And now I want to kind of get into what's exciting about this blaster, and that is literally there's paint on both sides. Even the Nerf logo that's in the handle that you're not going to care about, there's paint on both sides. And do you see this, YouTube? Do you see this? This is how you do a paint job. It's very well done. There's paint on both sides, and even though they have to always have this, it's not embezzled into the plastic. It's painted on there. Thank you, Hasbro. Keep doing this. Let's get this thing firing. Starting off with the included Zombie Strike Elite darts. One-handed shooting. attempting to fan fire with both ways that you can naturally fan fire this. That worked better than I thought. And now for some waffle head darts. So firing the driller is a pretty fun experience. It feels just like a hammer shot, except for the retracting hammer, which is a little. It's okay. Just it's a little weird to me, but I got used to it with the Outlaw. I have to get used to it with this. And from what I've seen from chronograph data, actually pretty good performance, about 70 FPS, which is actually a little bit more than the classic hammer shot. So overall, not bad. And it actually works surprisingly well. I remember my buddy Double Punch Nerf. He actually had some jamming issues, but that's just due to the fact that if you this system sometimes likes to jam, especially with how closed it is. So that is all the objective information I can provide on this blaster, not in my personal opinion. Overall, I'm very excited to see where the new zombie series is going to go, but I have a few negative complaints with it. So one, why couldn't they just bring back the old classic Zombie Strike, or at least call this like Zombie Strike 2.0? Just because it makes it feel like it's trying to be something new when we all missed the Zombie Strike series and we had a lot of fun. And I'm kind of bummed that they didn't name this the Zombie Strike 2.0, or I originally thought it was going to be the rebirth of the Zombie Strike series, but I guess it's not. But overall, it's not a bad blaster, but I wouldn't fully recommend it as a sidearm. It's a little too big to be a classic sidearm because with the mass of this barrel and this, it would make a pretty hard blaster to conceal and carry. When I would usually recommend stuff like the Hammer Shot Destructor or the Strong Arm because they're pistol-sized blasters and they're much more easier to conceal and all that. And they actually work as dedicated sidearms. While this is trying to be too much of a primary, especially with the scope. But with that, it makes for an overall big clunky blaster to the point to where I wouldn't feel comfortable running this as my secondary just because, or my sidearm just because it's too big. Like honestly, the only way I feel like I could run this is put a sling through one of these loops and like have this thing like thrown to my side. But that's not what this is trying to be. This is trying to be a sidearm, but it's a little too big. Like honestly, if you get rid of this, I could see it. But as it is right now, I can't really see this as a sidearm, but it's overall not bad. The grip is not the most comfortable, but it's not a bad blaster. Now to the question: to buy or not to buy? Now, if you are a performance nerfer that is just like trying to play Nerf and you nerf around this level, it actually works because like 70 FPS is actually pretty good for a pistol level blaster. However, I wouldn't fully recommend it for that. I would really like this as a plinker or target shooter. Now, if you're looking for a really good competitive sidearm or something like that, I would recommend the hammer shot just because, like, if you're looking for a blaster like this is a lot better to use because it's quick, it's out of your way, and it holds pretty tightly to your hip as well. And this is a really good sidearm. It has been for years, and it's my personal favorite sidearm to use. Like, I would use the hammer shot any day. This I would really like to plank and shoot with, or like if you're making like cinematic movies, this would be perfect. But I'm really excited for the future of the Zombie Strike series or the new Zombie series. I'm gonna keep calling it Zombie Strike series just because that's essentially what it is. I mean, come on. They started the Zombie Strike series with the hammer shot, and now they're starting it with another like derivative. Like honestly, this is what you would get. This is probably what you would get if you put this in a pack a punch machine. Like you place it in there, and then this. Like honestly, a little joke with it is you could like literally like add on to this to turn it into this. So I'm really excited to see where they're going to go. I can't wait to see what they make next. And thank you so much for watching the review, Dude Bros, the first review of 2024, and much more to come. Much love, blast on, and as always, stay tactical.